The problem with the situation in Myanmar is not that the military threatens the democracy or protects the democracy, nor can it be called a struggle between good and evil. Myanmar's military has taken over the country. State Councillor of Myanmar Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and some of the members of the ruling party's central board as well were detained and placed under house arrest. In late January, Myanmar's military complained to Aung San Suu Kyi's government but denied the possibility of a coup and said it would abide by the constitution. But on the morning of February 1st, the military announced that all the power had been handed to Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing on charges of election fraud. At the same time, the state of emergency was declared for 1 year. Myanmar's telecommunications network was cut after Aung San Suu Kyi and other government officials were arrested. National broadcasting stations and several cellular networks failed, and access to the internet was also restricted. The citizens were anxious and rushed to stock up on cash and emergency food. The situation in Myanmar's capital Naypyidaw and the largest city Yangon is similar to that of Washington in January. The soldiers are placed around the government building. Military troops and armored vehicles serve as a checkpoint on every street corner in the city. The November elections in Myanmar were the second since 2011, when the country stepped out of military rule after 49 years. Myanmar's president was elected indirectly, not by a direct electoral system, and Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy Party won 396 seats out of 476 in the November 8 elections, giving the government an additional 5 years it would form the top of power. But over the past few weeks, the military has raised the issues, saying that more than 8.6 million votes have been fabricated in this election. The elections in Myanmar took place on November 8, 2020, and what happened in Myanmar seems very suspicious. There have been cases of sudden interruption in the counting of ballots in several regions for security reasons, and when the military requested a review of the electoral roll, the electoral committee declined. More than 1.5 million Rohingya Muslim votes who faced discrimination in Myanmar have also been invalidated. In fact, since 2019, the government of Myanmar has blocked access to the internet and communications system for a long time in high-density regions in Rohingya. In addition, experts from Myanmar questioned the credibility of the elections as almost all Rohingya had their vote right withdrawn. In areas such as Rakhine, Shan, and Kachin, where many ethnic minorities live, the voting was cancelled, and the Myanmar authorities said this was due to security concerns. Also in September 2020, a UN human rights researcher in Myanmar stated that the elections would not be free and unfair because the Rohingya, mainly Muslims, had been denied the right to vote. For these reasons, the military claims that more than 8.6 million votes were rigged. International observers say, however, that the election went off without any problems. The situation in Myanmar was very chaotic even before the military coup. The Union's military-backed Solidarity and Development Party has protested about the rigged election in Yangon and other cities. The daughter of independence fighter Aung San, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Aung San Suu Kyi won a landslide victory in the 2015 elections. Decades of house arrest and democratic struggle have made her a heroine in Myanmar. However, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate's reputation was badly damaged by the massacre and repression of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, and she has been described as a tyrant by the international community. With regard to Rohingya Muslim refugees, the CCP has served as a shield of her on the international stage. She was once awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, but she did not actively intervene in the massacre of minorities in order to increase domestic support, and eventually became involved in allegations of illegal elections.
But it's a spectacular fall from grace for a woman who was the Nobel Peace Prize winner, an icon of the human rights movement, now to be standing there, forcefully defending her government, a government which, as you said, has displaced over 1 million Rohingyas, that has committed systematic rape and the destruction of villages. And to have this transmitted all over the world, Again, I don't think, from an international point of view, this was a disaster for her. I mean, if somebody is accusing you of a crime, of genocide no less, usually you want to run away from those charges, hide them. By going to The Hague for domestic reasons, she guaranteed that the world would be watching, that the cameras of the world would be focused on these very accusations.
But the military power which is at the center of this incident has been heavily criticized for 53 years since 1962 for its dictatorship, so that the military that carried out the coup cannot be seen as a pillar of justice.
This seizure is a sharp reversal of the progress Myanmar had made towards democracy, especially since it had been established only 5 years ago after 5 decades under military rule and international isolation since 1962.
In the meantime, Clarion, Anarchy reports and others state that there has been massive electoral fraud in Myanmar. They say the problem in Myanmar is more serious than the US, but the international community that backed Aung San Suu Kyi's regime as a group simply overlooks it. Military said they will follow the right steps to re-election and hand over power accordingly. But the international community is skeptical of the military's commitment to a transfer of power as it has reversed the outcome of 2 democratic elections. The UK, Australia, the United Nations, and the European Union, including the United States, have condemned the incident in Myanmar. The US called for the immediate release of the Aung San Suu Kyi and others. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki says the US opposes any attempt to change the election result or impede democratization and warns that if this case is not resolved, action will be taken against those involved ones. However, there is not much thing the US can do to Myanmar except economic sanction.
Of our sanctions laws and authorities, followed by appropriate action.
In contrast to the international community, China's position on this was not directly clear.
我们注意到缅甸发生的事情，正在进一步了解情况。中国是缅甸的友好邻邦，我们希望缅甸各方在宪法和法律框架下妥善处理分歧，维护政治和社会稳定。
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said, China hopes that this agreement will be adequately addressed to protect political and social stability. This statement seems nothing special, but it is subtly similar to the position of the military, as 25% of the seats are of fold allocated to the military under Myanmar law. For the CCP, Myanmar is a very strategic and important place for the Belt and Road Initiative. The CCP is preparing a project to connect oil and gas pipelines through the interior of the Myanmar to the Winnan province in case the Malacca Strait, the crude oil transport route, is blocked. To this end, the CCP urged the construction of the new deep-sea port in August 2020 with the approval of the Kayakpo Special Economic Zone in Myanmar. Myanmar is a very important place for China's energy security. If Myanmar joins the United States, it could mean a huge loss for China. So China is trying to somehow get Myanmar under its control. In Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi is basically a pro-Chinese ally who worked with the Belt and Road Initiative, but has also long been closely associated with the US Democratic Party. She is close to Obama and Hillary, who invited her to White House after winning the International Nobel Prize for her human rights campaigners. In particular, Hillary was special to Aung San Suu Kyi because she had a Clinton Foundation initiative in Myanmar since 2013. Myanmar's military was very close to China, which sold arms to them, but in recent years the military position has deteriorated as the government has become relatively close to the United States. Many analysts look back on the visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Myanmar on January 12 before the military coup. Wang Yi met Aung San Suu Kyi and pledged to support the country with 300,000 C-19 vaccines against the Wuhan pneumonia, discussed border issues and regional cooperation, and in particular a certain issue of the Belt and Road Initiative. This meeting can be seen as a group to see if Myanmar would be on the US side or the China side. Wang Yi also met with Min Aung Hlaing, the commander-in-chief of the military, before he left, and he is the main character who caused the coup this time. Of course, it is not known what specific conversation Wang Yi had with Aung San Suu Kyi and Min Aung Hlaing. Xi Jinping was also on a state visit in Myanmar at January 2020. In January 2020, Wuhan pneumonia began to rise dramatically in China. Especially under these circumstances and the urgent domestic political situation, Xi Jinping's visit to Myanmar showed how important Myanmar really is for China. The way in which China is acting with Myanmar, that is to say being on good terms with both parties, with the leader of the civil government as well as with the military. So that enables China to establish contact with the both of them. Because of this relationship, it is not a big problem for China, because it doesn't matter who is at the power, be it Aung San Suu Kyi or the military government. China has long viewed Myanmar as the brother to China. Myanmar has an enormous number of Chinese overseas populations who immigrated during the Ming Dynasty, and 2% of 1.2 million Myanmars, the 50 million people, are Chinese. Myanmar is a nation with 7 regions and 7 states. And Wa State is a self-governing department in Myanmar. Wa State, which borders the Yunnan province, is a place where about 600,000 Chinese live in groups. All residents are Myanmar nationals but speak perfect Chinese and even have their own Chinese broadcaster. A young woman in military uniform in Wa State, Myanmar, thanked her country's compatriots when China sent 45 tons of relief supplies to Myanmar to help Myanmar with the Wuhan pneumonia outbreak. The woman in the video speaks perfect Chinese and said she will not forget the grace of her country. She didn't say China but her country. This scene makes people feel really uncomfortable. The people in Wa State speak Chinese and use Chinese characters. Wa State is also highly autonomous, at least enough to have their own 40,000 soldiers. China has been advocating that they have a mental attitude to contribute to China at any time. The people were in anticipation of the military coup, but some questions remain unanswered, such as why did everything happen at this point? Critics of international affairs from China say China is pressing Biden with Myanmar's situation, calling for dialogue and the lifting of U.S. sanctions against China. They claim it is Biden who is embarrassed with this situation and the resulting problems in Myanmar, because it is similar to the situation the U.S. is facing, such as electoral problems and that the country is split in 2 halves. As I mentioned at the beginning, the problem with the prevailing situation in Myanmar is not that the military is threatening democracy or protecting democracy, nor can it be called a struggle between good and evil. What do you think of this video? Thanks for watching, comments, likes, and sharing. Be safe.